Война завершена. Одержана победа, какой еще не знала история. Источниками этой великой победы слава великому советскому народу, народу-победителю, слава вдохновителю и организатору нашей победы, великой партии Ленина Сталина. Слава нашему мудрому вождю и полководцу, маршалу Советского Союза, великому Сталину! Ура!
Ура! Ура! Welcome, everybody, comrades. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Yeah. Yes, everyone. Today is the new podcast. Finally. It took a long time. I was at work and I had also friends who were calling me. But welcome to the 9th May podcast. And today we're going to talk about, you know what day it is. I told you in the other podcast before, it's the one as I told you about the fall of Berlin. My name is F. Mobin, Farhad Mobin Piashev. Yes, I am half Russian, half Afghan. My mom is Russian, and this is also dedicated to her uncle who died in Germany during the invasion of the Red Army. And this is my podcast about 9th of May. Victory Day in Russia. Why do the Russians celebrate this day? And why do I of course, celebrate this day too? Well, my mom, doesn't really celebrate this day, but yeah, she doesn't live there anymore. She lives here with, in the Netherlands. But listen, let's talk about, 9th May. What does 9th May means to Russians, to Russian people, maybe to other ex-Soviet republics? And what does that mean even today? Well, today, you know that in these times, of course, Putin is fighting a war with Zelensky in Ukraine. And the relationships, politics, as the Russian ambassador even said, are not going so, it's going so disastrous and unsolved and bad. I know it's really terrible. And welcome to this podcast, of course, everybody. So also a big shout out to Mark Felton Productions, the guy who I found, on YouTube. He's a great World War II historian. He knows much about World War II. So let's talk about, didn't you know that 9th May wasn't just celebrated on 9th May? Back in the time of the Soviet Union, it was celebrated on the 24th of June. And why? Well, my mom didn't know that, but I find it out. It was after the surrender of, Germans, the German capitulation to the Soviet delegation, or what you can call it, staff, or Supreme Command, or just government, on that day, as here, the Germans have surrendered on 6th of May. The Germans have surrendered on 9th May to Russia, so to my mother's birthplace country, So, let's talk about how was the victory parade in that time? Well, yet lots of battalions, more than 10,000, 50,000 soldiers standing there in the parade. If I was a soldier there, I would get goosebumps around me. I would even cry. So let's talk about the generals that you also seen. Marshal Georgy Zhukov, Ivan Konev, Marshal Rokossovsky, Marshal Timoshenko, that the Ukrainians really have forgotten their history. Oh my God, really? I hate the Ukrainians as well. They forgot all their Soviet heroes who were also in that time. Timoshenko and Yeah, I also have some more. Um, yeah, and Bagramian was an Armenian Soviet general. So on the day, on the 24th of June, Stalin ordered Code 370. That means that it was saying in Wikipedia that during, of course, in the name of the Soviet Supreme Command and the Commissar, that means that they had to prepare for military preparations, of course, for training, because the soldiers have to walk in that formation. They all have to walk straight at the formation they should walk. It was a lot of preparations, of course, in training. And it happened, well, what I've heard also from Mark, that it happened after the Germans have surrendered on 9th of May. They were preparing all the time, all these weeks after, in June, for the preparations and training for the military parade. And here is also a great and legendary picture that shows Soviet soldiers with Nazi banners. And I know from Mark, who told it in his YouTube video, that many of these banners were from the SS guards and also from Hitler's personal bodyguards. So these flags you see on these banners were not the banners they used in war, the German Wehrmacht or armed forces. They used it during their parade. And I also now know why they celebrated on the 24th of June, because that was also the day that 4 years ago in the time, Operation Barbarossa was, launched. And I'm also going to tell that my mom tomorrow. So that's why they celebrated that day. And Stalin himself, Comrade Stalin, ordered that day on the anniversary, of course, of their operation. The Germans launched and invaded the Soviet Union. So that's maybe, a special day. And of course, like my mom's uncle, 27 million Soviets, Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, Moldavians, you can go, all these Soviet nationalities, 27 million Soviet citizens, soldiers, have all died to fighting against the Nazis. Can you imagine what kind of fucking casualty and sacrifice this is? Like the song of the Sacred War, Sveshennaya Vaina of Alexandrov, the Red Army Corps. So it means a lot to Russians today, of course, and they are proud that because of this victory, not because only that Putin wants to show his strength and his military power, of course he still have, but it has nothing to do with the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is different than the victory parade today. The people and the government, there's a huge difference between that. And victory in politics should not be merged with this kind of case that they are putting, as the West is putting, and forgot this great victory. I hate them so fucking really. They are the government and of course are the Western powers here. I hate them all, because they forgot the real true winners of World War II. And that was of course Russia. I don't say America or Britain or Canada. They weren't, because I'm half Russian. My mom said it herself. We are the big winners of World War II, and not them. They were also, of course, winners, but for themselves. They're not my heroes or my winners. That's what she said. She mean. So, her uncle, was one of those victims, and they were not allowed to tell her or her parents where he died. That was not allowed. That was a row in the Soviet Red Army. So, he was one of the victims. I have no picture, of course, of him because, my mom didn't knew him personally, what she said to me, but she knew he was her uncle. And it's a shame that I don't have a picture of him. But you know what? I just want to tell you, this day means, of course, for every Russian, everybody, who has Russian blood knows, of course, that the Russians have suffered so much and killed so many. Of course, they suffered a lot. 27 million people. That's even 22 times more in my country. We have here 70 million people. But it's much larger, of course, like I said to Nick, on population, not on country scale. Because the Soviet Union is so 100 times more fucking bigger than, of course, Russia today, than the Netherlands, where I live in now. So this victory means a lot to me. My mom, of course, sure, but my mom doesn't really have so much interest. She knows it is, of course, 9th May. David Maya, Dien Победы. She knows, of course, that. So after 24th of June, this day was then turned into 9th May because the 8th of May, the Germans surrendered to the Soviet delegation. And of 9th May, of course, they were all capitulated. And Comrade Stalin gave the speech that the Germans were surrendered. So that's great victory. Vodka, accordion, the Russians were dancing. Also, Lydia Ruslanova, I don't know, maybe you know her. My mom didn't know her, but she was a great queen folk singer, and she was entertaining the Russian soldiers and, of course, other. She had this voice of an angel, and I love her voice so much. I love Russian folk music as her voice. She makes us amazing. I love the Red Army Corps like Leonid Kharitonov. Maybe you know that guy. Yevgeny Belayev, who were great. Oh, that feels better. Oh, I'm sorry. Who were great artists. You can see the pictures. These two guys were the king of Soviet music. They of baritone, The vocals were so amazing and legendary that nobody today can sing like them, even a Russian. Nobody. And, of course, we know the Soviets, they suffered a lot. Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians. And there's only some things what I want to tell you. It's a deep shame, not to Europe only, a deep shame to Zelensky himself. His father was a Jew and was fighting in the Red Army, what I know. And the Ukrainians themselves, who embarrassed the Soviet and the Russian history themselves. Even their own history, they embarrassed it so much that they deleted and removed all those statues of Soviet heroes and their Soviet heroes in the history. But they just decorated and memorizing the Ukrainian fascists, the collaborators like Stepan Bandera and Yevgeny Konovalets, who was a Ukrainian colonel. They think they memorize, honoring them instead of the Soviet heroes of Ukrainian, of Ukrainian origin, like Sidor Kovpak, who was a Ukrainian partisan leader, Lyudmila Pavlichenko, who was known as the most famous sniper of World War II, Lady Death. So I don't understand only one thing. Why the fuck are these Ukrainian bastards, these Gakoli, it's an insult word, they know what it means. Forget this history, really. Because, Putin, of course, is their enemy. Of course, Russia is their enemy. But in a time, we were brothers, Slavic friends, brothers, comrades, what you can call. So it's a deep shame for myself, even for my mom, why the Ukrainians forgot all of this. They should always remember that the Soviet Union, the Soviet armies liberated a country. And of course, we all know, you also, in the parade, there was also one thing I want to tell you. The division of Red Cossacks. But Cossacks, if you know what Cossacks are, many different groups. And some of them were also collaborating with the Germans. As I said in the Insta post, because they were weak and they had that nationalism in their minds that they had from the old times of the Ukrainian, I don't know what it was, a republic or even in the Russian Empire. So they decided, we're going on the side of the Germans. We don't want these bloody Bolsheviks or communists. And they were all killed. You also had the Russian Liberation Army that was led by General Vlasov. There's a picture of him. So, you had traitors, collaborators with the Germans, but they all were killed and executed. So they wouldn't make it far. And, that feels better. So, Victory Day in that time. And of course, you're seeing also the picture that I showed you with the Soviet banners. The Soviet banners, the German Nazi banners were used as to show their victory as a symbol of victory. And they also wore gloves. The Soviet soldiers wore gloves because they weren't bare, of course not. They were ordered to wear them because they were not allowed to touch those Nazi banners, those evil banners, with their hands. So they used gloves and then they burned the gloves, or what Mark was telling me. So it's an interesting fact maybe for you, because these Nazi banners were found in this museum. I don't know what this name was, the Aflauk. I don't know, this museum. And the Red Army, the Soviet soldiers, they found these banners and took them back to Kremlin. What I didn't know, that Comrade Stalin had one of these banners. I believe it was the blood or this SS bluff flag, what the fuck, really, of Hitler. He carried one of them, but some of these banners also laying in the Museum of Moscow, like the Napoleon banners. So they kept some of these in secret to hide it, of course, from Soviet public, but they showed it in the museum, of course, for, to show, of course, the victory banners, the captured trophies, as, you can quote. So that's something really we should be proud of. And, for my mom and me, I've also the Soviet flag here. It means a lot. You heard also General Zhukov, who was giving the speech, and the cannons, the artillery salute. The Soviets have suffered a lot, and they were in Berlin. They, what you didn't know is, well, at the day of course, Victory Day. What I know, when they searched everything. Of course, they thought that Hitler died, but they found this body of this guy. I don't know, but there's some things, of course, in the Western history that they leave alone, and they removed everything about Russia and Soviet. It's a deep shame, for the European leaders, of course, that they forgot all of this history, that the Soviet Union was the real hero and liberator of Europe, not the Allies. Of course, they were, of course, liberators. For me, the Americans are, of course, liberators, of course, British too, Canadians. But for me, the real heroes are the Soviets, because I'm half Russian. I cannot lie that, because my mom would really look at me, and she was asking, but why are you seeing those guys as liberators? What about my people? We fought against them. We were in Berlin. Why are you saying that? Are you crazy? Yeah, then my mom won't be happy if I'm saying only that they are the Allies, or they are the real winners. And she would look at me, would be very angry, maybe slap me. So, my mom doesn't like that to hear. Yeah, what I just said in my former podcast, she has that Russian nationalism in her. Yeah, I don't know. Russian temperament, I don't know what you can say. Those are Russians, that's their mentality. They're patriotic, nationalistic, typical Slavic mentality. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to say to you something anymore. So this was the podcast of 9th May 1945 to 2025. 18th anniversary, and of course 8 years ago, a victory on Nazi Germany. And of course, you had also at the parade, you had the American General MacArthur, or Admiral, of the Navy. Yeah, also Japanese, some Japanese delegation. What I saw in the video, really strange, but yeah, they were surrendered, of course. Yeah, the French General Legal was at the meeting, at the parade. I believe you're British. So, and of course, tankists, soldiers, the first Ukrainian front, the second Belarusian front, the third Belarusian front, the first Belarusian front, and the fourth Ukrainian front, the Baltic front, and the cavalry front, of course, the Red Cossacks. So yet, lots of these battalions and fronts who were there, you can see their banners. So, yeah, it was a big army, of course, and these fronts were all Ukrainians, Russians, Belarusians, all mixed, combined together with Armenians, Georgians, Kazakhs, Turkmenis, Uzbekis, blah, blah, you can quote yourself. Mongols, So it means a lot, the Soviet Union, as many people don't still understand in Europe, was not only Russian, but also other different nationalities. 15 republics, 50 sisters. So 40 other nationalities. So what I can say about, it was a great day, and Stalin laughed, of course. He was looking at the moment they threw the flags, and I think he was thinking in his mind, yes, I'm the great winner. We have won. And I'm going to show America and the West that I'm the strongest of all. Like the song, The Red Army is the strongest of all. You know that song, maybe? So that's it, my friends. This was the podcast of 9 May. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you have questions. What else? Let me know. And this was the longest podcast for now. The next podcast will be maybe about D-Day, maybe something else. I will look. So, с Днем Великой Победы. Happy Victory Day. And, yeah, Hitler kaput. I'll see you to the next podcast. Happy weekend. Happy Friday. See you later. Прощай. Farewell. Товарищи. Comrades.